Hello and welcome, folks. Welcome to the Naren Agarwal Show. Today's episode is one that will make you think about, wow, how much can a person do? Because the person I'm going to talk to is an entrepreneur. She's a doctor. She's a practicing consultant pediatrician at Health Point Ranchi with over 12 years of experience. She's the chief operating officer at the hospital, which has grown from a 30 to 150 multi-speciality department hospital. Her name is Dr. Ila Binaykia. She holds a double postgraduate degree in pediatrics along with being an M.B.B.S. Welcoming Dr. Ila Binaykia to the show. Doctor, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much, Naren, for inviting me, for giving me this chance to. I just love conversing with you otherwise too. But on this platform, it's special, and thank you for making it so.
Thank you so much. First off, Doctor, I want to ask you, how do you pull off being an entrepreneur, like managing the operations and the organization of running a hospital, which is a very delicate operation? Second, being a consultant, a pediatrics consultant yourself, like seeing patients, The third, being a mother of two. I know that's a whole ball game in itself. How do you manage all these three things right now?
Well, to put it very simply, Naren, I think that's how life wanted it for me. I mean, I have not chosen this, but this is what was in store for me. And being a pediatrician was like the only single goal I've ever had in life. I really feel for children. It's something I found is a very sustained interest of mine. Like I feel that even now, after 12 years of being a pediatrician, the amount of joy which treating a child brings me, I think nothing can surpass that. So, and which is the reason why every time anyone asks me to introduce myself to them, and the first thing that comes, and probably the only thing that I talk about, is being a pediatrician. Wow. So it's really close to my heart. I love doing it, but I also, being very naive and courageous at the same time, took up this role of managing a hospital, which I realized that it was more difficult than I thought it would be, but I think the journey has been awesome, and I'm very grateful for what I have learned on the way.
Wow. Yeah, because even like I've read a bunch of business books and I help some entrepreneurs out and interacting with other entrepreneurs. Being a doer is something, like let's say somebody's a baker, they think of starting a bakery, and when they get into it, it's a whole different thing. Being the doer and then being the manager of the operations are two very different skills. And when you go on top, you realize, oh my God. And the reason I think it's so much more challenging is because you're a doctor, and doctors are already so crunched on time, especially given the demand and the need of the healthcare service in our country and where you are.
Right. True that.
Yeah. So what's your journey been as a doctor? Because I know you're somebody who is really into pediatrics. Most people go for one post graduate degree. You went for two in pediatrics. So what's your journey been, and when did this inception of becoming a doctor start in your mind?
More than being a doctor, because that's not really a very difficult decision to make, especially when you have had parents as doctors and you've seen their life. Being a doctor was not a difficult decision, but once you're doing your M.B.B.S, we have like 9 semesters. Okay? First 4 are non-clinical, more basic subjects, and then you go purely clinical. Even after those 9 semesters, 1 year of internship, and then you give them exam, most people decide what subject they want to choose at that juncture, when they have the rank in front of them and they have to press that button which says which subject you want to choose. But for me, I remember the 5th semester, there was this child, a girl, and she was suffering from congenital rubella syndrome. So it's a syndrome with lot of mental retardation is one of the most common features, but you have like congenital defects, eyes, heart, and everywhere. So when we were doing the examination, I realized that it's such a challenge, and it's at the same time such a privilege to be able to take care of such children, And for the parents, it's like you are the only one who can help them uh, come out of a situation which they have no idea about. So for me, I clearly remember that evening. I don't have a very good memory, but that afternoon, taking measurements, I remember like pretending to be a tailor just so that I could get her measurements right. And the whole exercise was so fulfilling and so rewarding that since that day, I have not changed my mind. Like, so 5 more semesters, one internship. And I remember my father asking me twice, thrice, and he would keep getting the same answer like, okay, maybe she really wants to do it. So the first time, the reason why I did 2 degrees, because the first time I did not get MD, which is master's. I got diploma. I was getting MD in other streams. Maybe I could have become an ophthalmologist, an ENT surgeon, but I chose pediatrics over a degree. And while studying for that diploma, because all my friends were wanting to do an MD, I too enrolled for the exam and I studied along with them. It was more like, okay, you have someone who's doing the same thing. So you end up studying for it. And to my surprise, I just cleared it and I got pediatrics again and I got MD pediatrics. So
Wow.
it's been one fulfilling journey. And my postgraduate days, as a postgraduate, you have to, especially in the first year, you really can't sleep. So I remember spending nights and day and nights in the wards. And when you're doing that, I'm sure, Naren, like even you must have studied and you've chosen your subjects. But when you really get what you want and you're in the situation, it's like you forget to eat, you forget to sleep, and you forget everything else in the world. So post graduation in pediatrics was that for me. And I'm always glad and grateful that I've got everything I wanted. Always.
This is so powerful. Sometimes they say it takes one moment to
Hmm.
change the direction of your life. And it's just a question of when that moment is. And like when you shared that story of the girl with the issues that she had, and you found that you could help her and be in that place, and that shifted everything. And that's been about like 15 plus years, um probably, that happened.
Yes.
Then you stuck onto this direction, and that's so powerful. One evening shifts so much for us. Each experience counts so much. Thank you for sharing that. That's so powerful. And what I love about what you shared is you went beyond the degree. Sometimes we get so caught up, and especially with these professional degrees like doctor, lawyer, engineer, we get so caught up with the degree. But it's rarer to find, at least I think, people who truly want to do what they want to do beyond the degree. And it's amazing that you had that in you.
Thank you so much. I really do wish to, there's still a lot in my wish list that needs to happen for me to actually be able to do for children the way I want to. So I'm sure,
Yeah.
hopefully soon enough.
Doctor, I want to ask you a further question. Given now that a lot of us, we can Google, we have a little bit more idea about healthcare, about how doctors
Right.
operate, let's say 10, 20 years ago. I'm curious to know,
Yeah.
how does pediatrics as a science or as a subject, how is it different than, let's say, a normal practitioner or a general practitioner? How do you look at things differently? Of course, I know there are so many details. From an overview perspective, if a layman wants to understand, how is pediatrics different than, let's say, a general practitioner?
Pediatrics is different, firstly, because your patients can't really articulate well. So many people really do not want to take up pediatrics because they think it's really, and the children will be crying, they'll be howling. It's anyway so difficult to come to a diagnosis. Plus, if you don't get accurate history, you don't get a cooperative patient, things become very difficult. But I think for me, it is a challenge that I want to take up because I find them so pure and so innocent that even that kind of interaction, it's good for me. I get joy out of it.
Um,
Plus, children usually don't have a very chronic history. I mean, a chronic disease as compared to adults. For example, if a 30-year-old or 40-year-old comes to me, he'll have a long series of mental and physical changes, which are very difficult to treat actually, because to undo all those years of damage for
mm,
whatever reason, nature or environmental or personal, it's very challenging. But for children, because it's such a short duration and everything gets amplified in their case because they can't talk, for everything they'll have a reaction which the parent notices and brings it to the doctor. So I find it very rewarding. You don't have to, you give them a few medicines, make a few changes, and they come back to normal. So I find that pretty rewarding. Yeah. And I like to see them happy. When the child comes to you with a very sick face, you just do a little teeny weeny magic, and then the response is like a big wide grin, which is very difficult to elicit from adults.
Most adults are walking with such a big frown, even if
Yeah.
they won the lottery. Wow, that's such a beautiful point, and um, I love that you mentioned how uh, I never thought about this, how it can be to be a doctor and try to treat the patient without actually getting to know what the problem is and like try to figure it out through gestures and through reactions. Wow, that's a challenging job. A lot of communication is involved. Communication skill is involved in reading the body language and tonality,
Right.
I believe.
Right.
Wow. Is there like a specific communication training that you go through or some things that you have picked up over the years, like knowing that, oh, if the child does this, like certain formulas or principles in your mind?
Picked up over the years with experience, and it's a lot of acute observation.
Hmm.
So,
What's an
yeah.
example? Like, I'm curious to know if there's a certain example that you can share with us.
So for example, what can I say? So for example, if a child comes to you, a baby, so a newborn, especially with a newborn, you get absolutely no history. But then if you do the head to toe examination, there are a lot of signs that you have to pick. And it's more like an analysis you do when after collecting all the signs.
Hmm.
So if it's a certain combination, you reach to this diagnosis. If it's a particular set of combination, you reach another diagnosis. It's like that. But because it's so there, I mean, the proof is there in front of your eyes, and there's no concoction. I mean, they cannot manipulate. With adults, what they do is a lot of the history and the complaints is also a part of their bias that they have. And
Hmm.
it's they choose to tell you some things, they'll choose to keep away some things, all those things. It doesn't happen with children. What you see is what you get. And so it's, in a way, it's much simpler for people who are oriented like that, who wish to be oriented.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so interesting. Like if an adult comes for a diagnosis, we have so many biases, right? Like maybe I don't want to talk about a bad habit that I have that has caused here, or I think it's not related, but for the doctor, it might be very meaningful, but I choose to leave it out, saying that it's not relevant in my head.
Yes.
Such complications can happen. Wow. That gives me a different picture of how pediatrics and like, let's say a general practitioner would be looking at things. Thank you for sharing. Doctor, what are the big hurdles that you faced in your
Hmm.
experience from jumping from being a practicing consultant to an entrepreneur and running a hospital, what are some challenges, big challenges that you faced?
So Naren, it has been full of challenges, and I'm not very proud to say this, but I think from where I started, I really didn't know things. I really have stepped ground up because I did not have any training in business, and that's the truth. You can look at your father, your uncles for for experiences or for insights, but ultimately, you really have to do and learn. So starting from, recruitment to training to salaries to interpersonal conflict, you name it, and I've faced them all. It's only now that I have much more clarity, and I'm sure every day, I'm just not even halfway through, but at least I know that what steps to take so that I don't keep repeating the same mistakes. Making newer mistakes is fine, but I make sure I don't keep repeating the same mistakes.
That's the rule of an entrepreneur, right? Make
Yeah.
mistakes, don't repeat old ones. Wow. What is one of the most challenging aspect that you discovered being an entrepreneur? Was it like in marketing? Was it in sales? Was it in like accounts keeping? Was it recruiting? Was it HR? Was it conflict resolution? Was it time management? What is a big issue that you ran into, and how did you overcome it?
I think I would like to highlight two issues. One is team building. I did not know and I did not realize how important it is to build a team.
Wow.
Initially, when we were in the startup mode, everybody does it and it's pretty okay to be doing almost everything yourself. But learning the art of delegating, it's a big let go, especially for professionals. We have been actually trained to think, evaluate, analyze very critically, and do everything ourselves. To leave that baggage and let go of wanting to do everything yourself and build a team is been one thing that I have learned over the years. I'm still doing it, and I do see that small changes in the way I think and feel can have huge impacts because I'm not trying to control everybody and everything myself. So, for doctors, trust me, this is the biggest challenge. The second would be finance and accounts because
Mhm.
I really didn't know that it has such a crucial role to play because at the end, of course, numbers don't decide everything, but they are important because they tell you if you're going the right direction or not.
100%.
So, yeah, training myself.
Success without numbers. You cannot
Yeah.
run a successful organization without numbers, no matter what anybody says. Emotions,
Yes.
etc., yes, are more important, but like um, numbers are the indicator to tell you where you're going. Exactly, you said. And what you don't measure cannot be improved. And if you want to improve something, you got to measure it.
Right. Right.
But sorry, I cut you off because I thought it was so important.
That's exactly what I wanted to say. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Thank you for being so candid. I mean, this is so true. I think that so many professionals go through this thing. Actually, when I got first into business, into a
Mhm.
family business, um, I was managing things my own way, and I made a lot of mistakes. And one big mistake that I made was not understanding the science of alignment. I thought I came in, I was this young guy. I came into my family business that's like 25,
Mm.
30 years old. And for me, everybody's looking at me as this like young guy who's foreign educated. He does not know about anything on the streets, which maybe was half true and half not true, right? I did know some things about the street. I was not a very bookish person. I was always somebody who was, very street smart or street connected rather. But one big mistake that I made was that I forgot, before rolling something out, before starting something new, exercising the science of alignment, getting everybody's approval, getting them on board. And what that happened was cause some resistance, because we think we have great ideas and the ideas might be great, but it's nothing without aligning people and getting them on board. So it kind of connects with the team building thing that you said. It's a kind of a team building exercise. Before starting
True.
something, getting everybody's alignment. That's a big mistake I made, a huge mistake I used to make. But we all learn on the way. And what's great is that your hospital has grown, and that you are able to cater to more patients that come to you over the years. So, doctor, talking about pediatrics, taking care of children, running a hospital, I know, at least from what I heard, motherhood is a big experience in somebody's life who chooses to be a mother. And you're a mother of two young boys, and that brings a whole lot of energy, but also that brings a whole lot of focus and effort in a different direction. So, being a doctor and then running a hospital, and then also being a mother and then taking care of, you know, of two individuals who are growing up. How is it to experience motherhood being a pediatrician? And I don't know, are there certain like, do you get in the zone of being a pediatrician all the time? Because of course, some things are going on with every human being as they grow up. How does that work in your head and your experience?
I think it's a very powerful combination. And being a mother and a pediatrician is, of course, very good. But being a pediatrician and also being a mother is even better, because I became a much better pediatrician after I became a mother.
Wow.
So earlier, now I can speak from experience. I can give my own personal example. I can tell them how the journey is difficult in ways, but also easy if you just try to look it in a simpler way. So I think because most families are nuclear now, mothers do take up a lot of stress and responsibility. And because we have more lesser number of children per couple size, so definitely more attention, but even more anxiety, I would say, in mothers in general. So, with my own personal experience, it's very easy to counsel them. It's very easy to lessen the anxiety and tell them that things are going to be fine. Every phase has its own struggle, but there's a very easy way to tackle it. And then you just have to start looking things in with that perspective. So it's been a great journey being a mother and a pediatrician. I love every bit of it.
That's a lovely to hear. If some mothers and also fathers are hearing this conversation between us, um, and maybe to be mothers and fathers, what are some basic things they should know about a child's development and growth, so that they can expect that and they shan't worry?
Some few misconceptions I can say is actually when the baby is born in the first year, the growth is quite fast. It's actually pretty fast. So, and when after the second year, the growth velocity decreases, many parents start worrying. They say, oh no, my kid was gaining weight and gaining height so well, and now he has stagnated. So, but that is the natural curve. And there are natural phases where child will grow more and then he'll grow less. I think parents expect a stagnant, or a gradual curve, a constant curve upward, but it doesn't happen like that. And especially the first year of development, for the first time parents, it's a real huge challenge because they do not know what to expect. And the truth is that there is no normal. I mean, the range of normality is so huge that you really cannot get disturbed about small changes or small aberrations that you might notice when you compare it with another child. And one thing that I really want to emphasize is every child is different. Even two boys from the same parents in the same household, they have very different temperaments, personalities, and probably very different ways of growing. So, if any doubt, any concern, I think a pediatrician should be consulted. And most of the problems are easily solvable by just changing the way you look at it.
Wow, that's so true. I think a big part is also just calming the parents down, and when they are calm,
Yes.
they're able to think rationally, take rational decisions. Given the fact that it's a baby and it's such a emotionally involved process for any parent, uh,
True.
I think pediatricians almost have to be semi-parent counselors.
Yes.
Doctor, there's a lot of theories now that I'm hearing about veganism, and especially for children, that you shouldn't feed cow milk to the child. You know, the cow's milk has certain hormones and whatever enzymes that's meant for the calf, for the child, for the cow's child to grow at that stage, not to the human child. You know, each species drink their own milk. Like a rat drinks rat milk, goat drinks goat milk, cows drink cow milk. So it's not meant for human consumption, especially children, because it leads for abnormal growth, especially the kind of milk we're producing now, all that. What is your take on that? It's very confusing because traditionally we've always heard, feed the child the milk. Milk is the most important thing for the child. So what do you say about that?
Yes. So the reason why people or pediatricians or other doctors advocate milk is because it's high in proteins and it has calcium. But what we also want to tell them is that is the actual last preferred alternative. So a baby actually requires is human milk, and breastfeeding, as we know, is the best for the baby. If you choose not to breastfeed or for any reason you cannot, then the next best option is formula milk. And only those people who cannot afford formula milk would be advised to go for cow milk. After 1 year, it's safe. Before 1 year, we really don't advise because of allergenic properties that the cow milk has. And after 1 year, you can introduce it into the child's diet, but it should never be like a main, staple. Replacing food with milk. Many people they keep giving milk in so much quantities that actually the child has difficulty eating normal food because the tummy is already full with milk. And after 2 years, the requirement of milk in general for the development is much less important. Yes, if you cannot find other good sources of proteins and calcium, please do give milk, but its its role in the growth of a child after 2 years is quite limited. So we can really start weaning it after 2 years.
Wow. It's really fascinating how like nature has its own beautiful design, right? What's perfect for you is already there in design, and only when we don't go for it do we look for alternatives. And it's interesting that you said 2 years. Is also the milk production in the mother automatically reduced after 2 years? Is that a natural cycle as well?
No, the mother can actually, the body is made to feed for as long as she wants.
Okay.
But 2 years is the standard guideline we stick to because practically it's difficult for mothers. It's a lot of nutritional challenge for the mother too to keep feeding a baby.
Hmm.
And there's no need. I mean, the bonding has already taken place. The initial 2 years where the growth spurt is maximum, that part has been taken care of. So it's pretty reasonable to gradually shift to other forms of milk. But yes, till 2 years, it's really advisable that that a mother breastfeeds the baby.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. One question I had is I've been seeing that in the healthcare industry, in the food industry, not healthcare industry, but food industry, a lot of unnecessary junk sugar is being packed everywhere. And maybe that's a little addictive. And I also see, unfortunately, a lot of child formula milk and a lot of children food products have packed junk sugar. And the latest research that I read on sugar, I got very interested in this because I personally myself had a weight loss journey of about 20-25 kgs when I used
Oh,
to live a very unhealthy life. And I was almost hypnotized by society and the food industry, food manufacturing industry. And I had to dehypnotize myself by reading things and looking into the labels. And so when I see that so much junk sugar is packed, I feel why so much junk sugar has been packed in formula milk and so much sugar for the baby? Does a baby need so much sugar? That too, like refined sugar?
The formula milk these days does not have much sugar. It's not really sweet if you actually get to taste it. It's more of the packaged food in and around. So maybe even Cerelac. I mean, I don't want to take brand names,
Okay,
but
we'll take the brand name, Cerelac.
formula foods, yes, of course. I think because of the awareness that is now more with the parents, they are coming with lesser sweet and more balanced versions. But it's, I mean, you really can't, if a mother decides for whatever reasons to feed the baby packaged food, maybe Cerelac or similar products, you can't really hold it against her because there are situations and times when she really needs to get a breathing space and probably traveling or moving to different new places. It does help her to manage things in a more organized manner. So, minimal, judicious, rational use is pretty okay. I think I'm not against Cerelac or such foods, but of course, it should be used in moderation.
Okay, cool.
I won't hold it against a mother if she chooses not to breastfeed. If she chooses to give the baby Cerelac sometimes, I will not hold it.
Correct.
It's her own personal choice. And like I said, there's a huge normality range, and you really don't have to fit into a straitjacket. There's no perfect role of a mother. I mean, no perfect image that she has to fit into.
Correct. I agree. Like, I don't blame a lot of the consumers of such products, and I used to be one of them. And it's just that we're really hypnotized by the food marketing industry. As
True.
simple as that.
Balance is difficult to.
It's when you're a consumer and you want to feed your baby the best thing, and the best thing that you're seeing everywhere is a brand name that starts with C. You think that's the best thing you're doing for your baby. It's not your fault. You're just totally hypnotized, and you don't know what's in there because there's so many letters and adjectives and names that don't even are not even pronounceable. And it's not on the fault of the parent because they're thinking they're doing the best thing. It's just that what they're being sold is a little manipulative, I think. Um, so I totally side with you on that point. Doctor, I know a little bit of meditation and yoga is part of your daily routine and schedule.
Yes.
Um, and that's an interest that you take in. What brought you to yoga and meditation? I personally feel it's a must do for almost everybody, especially if you're an entrepreneur, because you're packed all day and you need some way to center yourself. But what got you into it? What got you into it? What got you interested in it? And why did you start practicing yoga and meditation?
I think that's just another whole story, Naren. But to put it very succinctly, I think I was always looking for something beyond the material or beyond the day-to-day living. I always felt that there's something more to this, something more than just eating, sleeping, watching a movie, and feeling good about it. And after being in practice, practicing yoga for so many years, I really think that it's way easier to get joy from within than from without. It's just the proof in everyday living that I get that keeps me wanting to do it one more day and then one more day and then one more day.
Wow,
That's how it has been.
that's beautiful, doctor. And definitely your calm, composed spirit shows that you've been practicing well. Just kidding. Before we end the podcast, do you have any final comments or questions or some message that you would like to leave everybody with, especially as a pediatrician, since that's your favorite way of introducing yourself?
Thank you so much. Yes, a very important message that I would want to leave is every child is different. Every child is special. Please don't, many parents get into this zone of trying to fix their child. I just want to tell you that let them be is the most important gift that you can, or most important step that you can take to make your child's life better. And once you do that, you'll see that not controlling them, not admonishing them, or trying to guide them all the times, but listening to what they have to say is what will strengthen your bond for years to come.
Wow, that's powerful. Folks, if you're a child, helicopter parents, listen up. Don't helicopter your parents. It's easier for me to say because I'm not a parent, but I do understand an emotional attachment that might cause. But of course, I know in school I used to be irritated by my friends who had helicopter parents, and they used to be irritated by their parents. So leave your child alone sometime, let him or her grow up.
And communication is key. Just make sure, like when children go into the teenage phase, many of them take a step back and they stop talking. Just don't let that happen. No matter what, just keep that communication channel open.
Wow, that's so true. Be your child's best friend, and then they will seek refuge and advice from you. Yeah. Nice. I'm giving
Thank
all.
you so much, Naren, for giving me this opportunity. Before you end,
Yeah.
I would like to tell you that I did go through many of your podcasts before, and I think what is special about you is your easy style of conversation. You just make me or anybody else feel like, and you really, add glamour to normal conversation, which is getting so much rarer these days. I mean, deep and meaningful conversation is what you have brought back with this show of yours, and I thought I should mention that to you.
That's so sweet of you. Thank you so much, Doctor, for mentioning. And I'm privileged that we could have somebody like you, so well established and so well spoken in the podcast, and share your insights and story with everybody. Thank you so much, Doctor.
Thank you.